At their second February meeting, Council considered some long-term funding requests from local organizations and discussed a special service plan for disposable solid waste and recycling, as well as revisions to their climate change action plan. In Council reports, Councillor Sicily reminds everyone that the Winter Festival that was postponed to this Sunday, February 23rd, due to the extreme cold last weekend. And Councillor Nadeau reported on meetings of the Western Manitoba Regional Library Strategic Planning Session and the Spruce Plains Justice Committee. Councillor Girard, as part of the Finance Committee, reports that they have begun to review initial spending requests from municipal departments, noting that significant infrastructure investments are still needed to service the expanded areas of the community.
So the Winter Festival was postponed for this past weekend. It was minus 36, I believe, through the day on Sunday. So due to the extreme temperatures, it has been rescheduled for this Sunday coming up, February 23rd. Everything starts at 1:30 p.m. with the Polar Bear Yoga. There will be a Skate with the Titans in the afternoon, an obstacle course, and then there is free hot dogs and fireworks into the evening. So.
What time are the hot dogs and fireworks?
I believe the hot dogs are starting at 6, and fireworks will be basically as soon as it starts. I think it's 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Forecast is +3.
Yes, it's supposed to be beautiful, so it was a very good decision.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Councillor Nadeau.
Yes, on February 10th, the WMRL and Library Board, we met and we had a strategic planning session. And just to let you know, we have on our strategic plan that bookmobile. However, I found out at the meeting that the grant that we were going to utilize to get that underway, it fell through. So we're looking at climbing up a hill, unfortunately, for that portable bookmobile. Also, we talked about our regular increases and how the library board itself sees us being progressive where we continue to increase. And I was trying to put a little brakes on it, just saying how a few of our municipalities are feeling tightness and how it's not necessarily something we need to push too quick because we've been expanding our budget year to year ever so much constantly. And just, something that we need to take in stride. So just to let you guys know, I also on February 13th attended a Spruce Plains Justice Committee meeting. I don't always report on those because a lot of that is confidential, but we've got some new positions on the board and we're always looking for members, and right now we're just continuing to see how we can expand that particular committee. Our AGM is scheduled for April for the Justice Committee, and that's everything.
Thanks. Councillor Girard.
February 10th, Finance Committee met, sat down with administration. We have started to review the initial, spending requests from the various departments when we start looking at anything from infrastructure to recreation and across some of the other, some of the other requests from the community. We're starting to summarize those numbers. We're going to be starting to see some new challenges coming online with that. Neepawa's great growth has been fantastic. We're now in the process, though, of expanding out into new regions of the community, which takes some significant infrastructure investments. And we're going to see that come online as we move to service out the area where the future hospital is going to be. We're starting to talk road construction, water and sewer. One of the things, as part of a requirement by the province, is that there's a $6 million contribution towards that project. Not saying that falls 100% on the community of Neepawa, but it is to be shared amongst Neepawa and surrounding communities. Neepawa will be at the forefront of expenditures because of what we have to do for servicing with infrastructure. So we did meet. We tasked administration to go back and squeeze some pennies and see where we can take a look at. And we're gonna be meeting again in the coming weeks and see that we can, manage where we need to look at taxation with the growth that the community is experiencing. So it's gonna be a very balanced approach to make sure we make some very calculated investments within the community.
Manager of Operations Denise Kay also reports on department budgeting and other planning that is going on in the background of the visible work of the department. Work near the new hospital continues, and he has been working with Manitoba Infrastructure regarding the new intersection with Highway 16. A new retaining wall is required as part of that Hamilton Street project, and the design work has now been subcontracted at a cost of approximately $9,500. Following an approved design, actual construction of the retaining wall will be at an additional cost.
So luckily it's been somewhat quiet. I'm not going to be too disappointed with that. But as Councilor Gerard mentioned, we did have a budget meeting. So we'll just kind of refine some of the requests the councilors had at that meeting and ensure that we can work within what's reasonably acceptable to the community residents. Other than that, there's been plenty of planning happening. Obviously with this giant project 320, there's been a lot in the background that we've been running around doing. Also with the hospital site infrastructure on there and ensuring that all that's going into play. And having progressed in a very positive outcome meeting with Manitoba Infrastructure regarding the intersection at Highway 16 and the junction of the new hospital entrance. So they're in the works of planning that out and getting tendered. So they're optimistic that they can see that intersection opened up and completed by late summer, early fall. So like I said, other than that, we have plenty of projects that we're working on. So it's consulting, receiving quotes, all that stuff, getting all that stuff prepped up so that we can continue everything moving along at a good pace here.
Retaining wall. Maybe it's even the need.
Sure. So this is part of our Hamilton Street project where we're going up. And it looks like we're digging a tunnel, but we'll get better. But as part of that, we will slope and protect against the one property we were requiring a retaining wall. It's out of scope of SBC because they were just strictly doing the road design, and a retaining wall portion needs a structural engineer design. So SBC subcontracted this portion out to Tetra Tech. We discussed a few different options, and it looks like we've got the concrete retaining wall, it's the most feasible option. Aesthetically pleasing, pretty straightforward, simple. So, but we still need to engage them so they can stamp this retaining wall for us.
Right.
So just
And
for
did I
clarity,
read it was about 5 feet high?
Excuse me. The portion of the design will be about 4 feet, but I wanted clarity, so if we extended the wall to reduce the slope on the land, could that wall be extended higher? So there'll probably be a broad range on the design.
Okay.
So it could be from 4 feet up to 8 feet is acceptable. The structure will handle that much fill and that much strike, including the height. But yeah, the essential, the retaining wall, I think the design now is about 4 feet.
and for a length of 65 meters. So just for clarity, this is just with the design, to get the plans, $9,500. And of course, they wouldn't come on site at the time of construction for an estimated cost of $3,000, which would involve travel and time and mileage and things like that.
That's some materials.
Yeah.
There's no materials.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Okay, resolution reads, be it resolved that we accept the proposal of Tetra Tech to complete a detailed design of the approximate 65-meter length of retaining wall to be installed at the west end of the new roadway through the Southwest 341415 in the amount of $9,500 plus time and materials for services provided to oversee construction at an estimated cost of $3,000.
So just for clarity, materials meaning associated with Tetra Tech, that's what it says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have that kind of deal.
Yeah.
You get that much concrete for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, moved by Councillor Gerard, seconded by Councillor Kostenchuk. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
CEO Colleen Sinchishin has several pieces of new business to bring forward, including a special levy for disposable solid waste and recycling. According to Sinchishin, only 8% of the cost of garbage last year was borne by the general mill rate, and this year that will be reduced to 6%. The proposal is more of a user pay model, and as well, we recover some funds from our recycling from Manitoba Multi-Materials Stewardship. A public hearing on the proposal will be held on March 11th.
Colleen, special service plan?
So you have attached to your agenda a copy of the special service plan that's going to be implemented for the positioning the garbage expenditures into a special levy on taxes. This basically allows more of a user pay system based on volumes, as opposed to putting it all on the tax base, which, a decade ago was generally the practice. So the increases that we're proposing are reasonably modest, just so you know. Total expenditures for garbage recycling collection, and of course, the bigger number comes in when we actually landfill them at Evergreen Environmental. There's a big cost to landfilling garbage. So our total expenditures are $633,000 for garbage and recycling collection, transportation, and disposal and landfilling at Evergreen. We actually recover, in 2024, we recovered 27% of that by way of receiving grants from the Manitoba Multi-Stewardship Association, from the RARS grant, and also some of that came back from specifically from contractors that took their construction and demo out there and then paid that through a receivable. The bylaw last year collected for us 64% of those total expenditures, or roughly $406,000, and the general mill rate then only 8% was borne by general mill rate at that particular year. As we move forward, the numbers will be very similar, where we're going to collect roughly 6% by general mill rate, or $40,000. We're going to have $461,000 collected under the special service plan, and about a recovery of $165,000 from the funding that we get through recycling and whatnot. So people are going to see modest increases to their rates based on usage. The biggest thing is when you look at this particular bylaw, we've looked at doing, in our research, it was shown that the multitude of communities actually do an equal rate per dwelling unit and an equal rate per commercial if they have to do commercial garbage. The rate per dwelling unit in 2024 was $112.55. That's actually going to be $125 per dwelling unit. It doesn't matter where your dwelling unit is now. It's an equal across the board. Everybody is going to pay the same thing for their garbage and recycling. Ours at $125 is still extremely modest. The research that we conducted in communities that were very similar, our rates of up to $170 per year plus. Even in our neighboring municipality, the rate is over $150 and you still have to transport your garbage there. So these are pretty reasonable rates. Of the $125 per residential dwelling, $108.72 goes directly to the contractor as per the bid we received last year for collecting the garbage. The difference being that between $112.55 and $125 is the contribution towards the tonnage that gets tipped at Evergreen Environmental. And I would suggest that that small amount of money between the $112.55 and $125 does not anywhere near cover what the average person would send to the landfill in a year. Our rates should probably be more realistically, upwards of $140, $150 to even come close. But we were able to make this work with the numbers we have, so we're happy to propose the modest increase. Insofar as taking a look at particular buildings that are non-profit and assisted living and supportive housing, there's 4 units in town, being Elks Manor, Yellowhead, and McKinley 1 and 2, that we looked at being more of the congregation of people that live there, and the fact that a lot of them will each in a similar dining room and whatnot. In like areas across the province, they actually did a reduced dollar value for these particular units because they wouldn't generate as much garbage as the others. And we're offering them 60% of the charge of the prescribed rate of $125 for $75 per residential dwelling. Then when you go to commercial, for one set of carts, looking at the volume that you would get distributed and taken to the landfill every week is $365, and then you can go up in increments on a double set and triple set based on volume, modestly appropriate based on what you're landfilling at the landfill. And then of course there's some anomalies in there, whether you have large bins and whether you dispose of your large bin, once a month or twice a month or 5 or more times a month. And looking at those with respect to the amount of garbage that gets landfilled and fills up the Evergreen Environmental landfill out there, Just for interest sake, it costs about $800,000 to dig a pit out at Evergreen. That's how Evergreen recoups their monies to run the landfill out there and pay all the staff. So the tonnage charges that we get charged for all of the garbage that goes out there, that is incorporated into these rates to try and get as close as we can and as possible to use or pay for what you are landfilling. And of course, the anomalies, of course, High Life, we charge them a rate based on what they send out there. It's significant compared to everybody else, clearly, and around $90,000. And then for every vacant parcel of land in the town of Neepawa and a railway property, we have a nominal fee of $2 assessed to every parcel. And basically, we collect roughly $500 some on that, and we've seen the last time we put this bylaw forward. The reason for doing that is we do massive town-wide cleanups quite often, where we purchase the garbage bags, purchase the gloves, and all the types of things, might require a shovel or whatever the case. That pittance of money that we do get annually goes towards making sure we can cover the cost of cleaning up properties that otherwise nobody's paying attention to. So that, in summary, is where we're at. There will be a public hearing on this so you're gonna approve this tonight, basically, saying that you're supportive of this. It does not mean it's a go. There will be a public hearing on March 11th, where we'll hear from the public and see if there's any opposition. Hearing none, you can give first reading that night. After that, this goes into the province for their review and analysis, and then of course they measure it based on whether there's any objections. So at this point, we're just trying to get it into the queue, and with modest increases, I think we'll be fairly successful in getting something approved that really is just continuous of what we did for the last 5 years.
March
11th is the public hearing. We have to have a special meeting to line this up appropriately with the budget process that Councilor Gerard was speaking about, because we cannot issue tax notices until this is settled. Are there any questions?
The Neepawa Area Disabled Persons Association, which runs the handy van, has come before council before to outline the costs of their operation and where they need assistance. A request was deferred in 2024 because the budget had already been established, but they have come forward again in 2025 prior to the budget for the request to be considered. The organization is requesting $1.80 per capita, which for this year would amount to $10,233. While council has made some special or emergency contributions in the past, this is a new ask. Council approved the request with the stipulation that 2/3 of that amount go into a reserve for capital expenditures in order to replace the vehicle when it becomes necessary. They have also received a request from the Beautiful Plains Community Clinic Recruitment and Retention Committee for a funding increase. The committee has received $2,500 annually for the past 10 years, which has been used to attend recruitment events, but that money doesn't go as far as it did 10 years ago. The community currently has 9 doctors and, according to Deputy Mayor Parrott, it will need 18 when the new hospital is up and running. Plus, they would like to have the capacity to be able to support patients in surrounding communities 1 or 2 days a week. Council approved an increase to $2 per capita starting in 2025, which currently comes to $11,370.
The first one is the Neepawa Area Disabled Persons Association. This is for your discussion. Letter received from the Handyman Board proposes that they were requesting $1.80 per capita donation to the organization for the 2024 budget and future years to be considered. As you recall, we deferred it from 2024 when we did receive it because our budget was already established, and our precedent would suggest that they get deferred to a year when we can actually have some time to discuss it. So based on $1.80, if you are interested in approving that, 5,685 is the population, so the total would be $10,233 for 2025, and I would suggest, based on the request and the attendance of the board at one of our council meetings that spoke very importantly to the ability to make sure that they have room for capital expenditures. The recommendation in the resolution is that of that money that we hand over, if you choose to do so, that 2/3 of it gets set into a reserve to make sure capital expenditures can occur.
Any questions on that? Councilor John?
Well, I would just like to speak to it. This is a new funding request to the town, and it's not something that we've done historically. I think really what this was in terms of council, it's not to say that we weren't spending money in support of the handy van services here. The last few years, we have had to do some special contributions to that to make whole, I guess, some operating expenses of operating that service. What is unique about this is that we're trying to put this into the budget as a proactive line on the budget as opposed to a reactive, which has been how it's been historically. The other side of that too is that there is an expensive asset that will need to be replaced, and that is the handy van. And listening from the presentation, councilors and that were there, we're talking, you know, previously there was things like minivans and that they could use, and they had some lower cost solutions. The replacement of a handy van in our community, and especially with an aging community, we're talking now a six-figure investment. So at contributing, you know, this value, it will be a modest contribution towards that. But I think trying to plan it as opposed to react to it, I think, and I think that's always been the goal of the council, finance committee, and the committees that run that. There is to plan for it as opposed to react to it, just so we don't get caught and we don't have to shortchange other services in an emergency to make sure that we can provide those services to through the handy van.
Good comments.
So the next one is the Beautiful Place Community Clinic Recruitment and Retention Committee. They're looking for a funding increase, so probably for greater than a decade now, and I don't remember if it was 2013 or 14. Council committed an amount of $2,500 a year for the purposes of recruiting and retaining doctors. And through the years, that money has been used to attend, you know, events in, whether in our own province or otherwise, to try and encourage doctors to want to come to Neepawa or at least come have a visit, and different things that might move us along and be effective in securing doctors here. So more recently, as we all know, across the province, there has been a big move and a push to get doctors into your communities. We all know that they're lacking, there's a shortage. So the request is that we look at $2 per capita, or $11,370 for 2025, to help bump up the funds in that particular bank account, because the things they need to do, you know, $2,500 is getting a little old and a lot less than what they really do need to function over there. So unless somebody else might want to speak to this as well, but the resolution speaks to the fact that we include that in our budget for this year.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, this committee is highly responsible for the large number of doctors that we currently have. With what is going on, we still need to have more doctors. I think we're around 9 now, and we're looking to have a total of 18 once the new hospital is up and running. And with this, we're hoping to also have our doctors work in the surrounding communities as well, a couple of days a week, so that we're more of a regional group of doctors.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, resolution reads, be it resolved that we hereby approve an increase in funding to Beautiful Plains Community Medical Clinic Recruitment and Retention Committee to reflect the value of $2 per capita commencing in 2025 and amounting to $11,370 in support of their efforts to actively recruit and retain doctors in Neepawa. Moved by Councillor Sisley, seconded by Mayor Parrott. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Finally, in 2019, the town approved a climate change action plan and are looking to submit an application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation Initiative to update that plan. The updates will include some specific local climate-related risks, such as increased flooding and lightning strikes that have been affecting communication with the town's well sites.
So the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, their Green Municipal Fund, came up with an intake for grant applications such that they're looking at communities trying to address the impacts of climate change and trying to mitigate and prepare for disasters which, impacts the community. So it's about protecting your community, it's about mitigating, quick recovery, that kind of thing. So in 2019, Neepawa actually approved a climate change local action plan that set forth the goals and actions to manage our water, improve our air, reduce our waste, reduce our energy, and increase our climate awareness. So this particular program, when it came forward, is allowing us the ability to improve upon that document that was created in 2019 to speak more specifically to climate adaptation, reducing risk and mitigation, and recovery. That document in 2019 did not speak to that. And because now, as we all know, in 2020, the massive disaster we had with the flooding, and then of course in 2022, more flooding, it's recognition about where we need to go to address what risk we have. On the plate last year, which came to us more frequently than we'd like to say, is the fact that the lightning strikes that occurred, our well sites are taking down the ability of our communication system to reach our water plant, and then of course transfers over to our tower, where at one point, because the communication was down, we actually overfilled the water plant. So we understand as climate impacts become more severe, our document has to speak to that. The importance of having that document speak to that is then we can use that document for an application into the next round of funding for capital improvements under the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. That would help provide, if we get it and be successful, money for infrastructure planning. Our plan at that point, with having this document put away and under our belt and updated, is the fact that we're going to apply for the installation of fiber optics between our wells and our plant and all of our water infrastructure, so that it has no chance of going down in a lightning strike. So I think, 2 or 3 times we've hit with lightning. So not only does it go down, but it's very costly to get everything up to speed and repair everything you need to do. So this is just one step in getting us to try and get the fiber to the wells and improve upon that. And we're asking for your support in this resolution to make that application to update that 2019 plan to speak to where we really need to be at current day and in the future.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're trying to mitigate against lightning strikes and how many there's been. It's lots. Okay, any other questions? Okay, resolution, whereas the town of Neepawa approved a climate change local action plan in 2019, set forth goals and actions to manage water, improve air quality, reduce waste, reduce energy consumption, and increase climate awareness. And whereas the town is desirous of evolving that document to include a focused assessment on the potential risks to Neepawa relative to the increased impacts of severe weather events. And whereas Neepawa's commitment to document and take action on climate preparedness, adaptation and mitigation measures will enhance community resilience and improve Neepawa's ability to withstand and recover from climate impacts that threaten the community and its infrastructure. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Neepawa supports an application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation Initiative to update the existing climate change local action plan to move an inclusive document that incorporates local climate-related risks and improves upon the community's ability to prepare for, adapt to, and mitigate climate-related disasters and allow for timely recovery. Moved by Councillor Nadeau, seconded by Councillor Kostenchuk. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
You can view end-to-end coverage of the council meeting elsewhere in the NACTV schedule or on our YouTube channel. If you have any comments or questions about these items or topics about council and the municipal government process in general, please contact us at 204-476-2639 or by email at nactvnews@gmail.com. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.